Stories shape how we see the world. Voice of Witness is an award-winning oral history nonprofit harnessing the transformative power of storytelling. We work with individuals and communities impacted by injustice, helping them document their lived experiences through oral history, telling their own stories in their own words. In an era of reductive sound bites, we need this kind of nuanced grassroots storytelling to create a more just future. Visit voiceofwitness.org/learn to get involved, check out our workshops, and download tools to support your own project. Join us in building a more connected world, one story at a time.
Hi, I'm Rashmi Sajani, founder of Girls Who Code. Look, I'd consider myself a pretty successful adult woman. I've written books, founded 2 successful nonprofits, and I'm raising 2 incredible kids. But here's the thing. I still wake up wondering, is this it? And if the best years are yet to come, when's that going to start? Join me on My So-Called Midlife, my new podcast with Lemonada Media, where we're building a playbook for navigating midlife, one episode at a time. Each week, I'll chat with extraordinary guests who've transformed their midlife crisis into opportunities for growth and newfound purpose. At some point, we all ask ourselves, is there more to life? I'm here to discover how to thrive in my second act, right alongside you. My So-Called Midlife is out now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Lemonada.
Hello, Good Things listeners. I'm Jamila Zaral Williams, supervising producer for Good Things, and today we're sharing with you a very good thing, a special episode of the Lemonada series, V Interesting with V Spear. In this episode, V sits down with Atlanta-based artist and Solutions Not Punishment collaborative executive director Toni-Michelle Williams. Toni-Michelle is finding ways to make Atlanta more joyful for Black and trans folks. From documenting the city's public safety failures to partnering with the Citizens app, V learns how Toni-Michelle is supporting her community's needs and helping cultivate their sense of belonging. Enjoy!
Hey friends, today we have a super special show and an incredible guest who I am so excited to bring to your attention. Toni-Michelle has served as a policy member of the Atlanta Mayor's 2019 Task Force to Reimagine and Repurpose the Atlanta City Detention Center, and also the Atlanta Police Use of Force Task Force in 2020, which was created after the murder of Rayshard Brooks. Today, she's here to talk to us about how she's helping to make communities more safe and joyful. I'm so excited you're here, Miss Toni-Michelle.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to meet you and talk with you today.
I'm excited to have you. I've been looking forward to this all week, honestly. So, when did you first recognize a need for the type of work that you do in your community?
As a young person from Atlanta, I experienced a lot of hardships growing up in my family. My mom was a single mom who experienced domestic violence and things. And, it was literally people in my school, the community around me, my friends and their parents and moms who were also single moms supporting us. And so I knew that there were other people like me. My friends also had similar experiences. And when I went off to college, I experienced some violence on campus, being a trans woman, and being placed in male dormitories, at historically Black colleges and universities. I had to learn how to advocate for myself, not create a wall and go into a shell, but to speak up and act out so that people could hear me and see me. And so I started working in my senior year of college in 2012, started working at a nonprofit that's now called the LGBTQ Life Center of Hampton Roads in Norfolk, Virginia. And I was running and supporting a T-Girls empowerment group. And I learned so much about trans women's experiences outside of mine, and, the things that they were facing and the communities that they were building. And so I committed myself to that community and to that journey to supporting all my girls and all my family.
So you just said, when you went to historically Black college and university and they misplaced you in the men's dormitory, and that's one thing that has happened that's a struggle that trans women have to overcome so often. What are some other things that folks might not think of that are, injustices that trans women have to face just for existing?
Absolutely. I think one thing is isolation. We oftentimes forget about people being pushed out of families and out of institutions that they pour so much of their time and their skill, right, and their vision into. We've heard about the violences that Black trans women face across the country and across the world. I also, don't want to forget about the experiences of young trans girls who are oftentimes forgot about and pushed to take care of themselves and also take care of their families, and the kinds of work that they have to get into in order to survive, like survival sex work, like panhandling or idling or solicitation, the things that are criminalized by, cities and counties across our states. And so just the attacks that have been on trans youth, we don't talk about like what it is outside of, like what their experiences are outside of sports, right? For the girls and the young trans girls who love to do makeup and hair, but still experience this kind of, push out and isolation from cis women and other cis young girls and those communities. I mean, there are just so many things, right, that we experience. But I think the most important thing is to acknowledge that we also hold and embody and experience so much joy and resilience. And that, I think, has really transformed this kind of like movement that trans folks and renaissance that Black and trans folks have been experiencing over the last 4 to 5 years in media and also in advocacy and policy.
What are some of your biggest accomplishments of the last couple of years?
Oh my goodness.
We got to brag on you for a little bit.
I get all sweaty and clammy talking about myself. So a few accomplishments. Okay. So I'll start like 2019. Okay. Cause it's actually been some amazing moments that have happened, and also some very hard moments, but I've survived them, and excited to be talking to you in the end of this season about it. But I'll start in like 2019. So I did not finish college, back in 2013. I had studied abroad in the Czech Republic, and I had got back, and I was like, why am I in America? You had
Wait, it was better in the Czech Republic? It was safer? I'm like very stunned by this.
It's not that it was safer, because I was like a triple minority, right? I was like Black, trans, non-binary, a woman, American, all of the things. So it was really, really hard, but it grew a different layer of skin, right? And I found I didn't have like my family and friends who had this idea of who I was or who I should be. I just had a place to start over. And that kind of like starting over, that kind of like internal transformation supports, I think, and regenerates safety in so many ways, so I did that, and I got back to the States, and I was like, why am I here? And I really kind of like fell into a deep depression, and I didn't finish my last semester of college, but I went back in 2019, and I pulled up my drawers, honey, and I went back to Virginia, and I finished school. I was with a whole bunch of young people, and it was very liberating. I learned a lot about myself and a lot about young people in 2022, at the time it was 2019. But went back and made new friends, and now homecomings are litty. I know everybody from my day, today. I'm just like, yes. And so I've like built a new community. So I'm really, really proud of that. And I love my institution. I gotta tell you,
I am in shock right now. Okay. What? You are, because you're such a vibrant and lovely person. And then you say things like, I went to the Czech Republic for college, which is a hard choice for just anybody in general. And you're like, nope, did it. And then to go back to Virginia, which is not necessarily one of the most progressive states, to finish your degree. Are you a person who isn't afraid to pick the hardest path? Like, is that what busting up these boulders is picking this hard path?
I don't necessarily think it's about picking the path. I think it's just about being present enough to know where you belong and to trust where you are. Me picking Virginia or picking Norfolk State was really about me wanting to get away from, hard family dynamics, and me wanting to have, again, more space. And so I think for me, I do lean into, and also I'm an Aries, so I love a good challenge, but I lean into what's possible for me. And I also lean into and think about what's at stake. And so if I can take an opportunity and I can just think about the possibilities and, the only thing that's at stake is just time, baby, I'm going to take more time somewhere else. So I love to travel and I love to have new experiences. And I think that when I choose the experience or I choose the people to like support and invest in my leadership, all of the different opportunities come to me. That's been my tea.
That is very inspirational to me because I am a notorious coward. I'm afraid of literally everything. And so when I'm looking at stuff, this is why we're friends now. Because when I'm looking at stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so afraid. And that fear can be paralyzing. And you're looking at stuff and going, I see this as an opportunity.
Yes.
And so I want to ask you, when you started Snapco, what was going through your mind at that point? Because that's another thing that just feels so insurmountable, so difficult.
Yeah. So, second big accomplishment was becoming the executive director of the Solutions Not Punishment Collaborative in 2020. I did not create Snapco. So Snapco actually was created back in 2013. We are coming up on our 10-year anniversary. Woot, woot.
Wow.
And at that time, the city of Atlanta was trying to pass legislation or an ordinance that would banish people charged with prostitution. Okay. And that was primarily Black trans women in the I don't know if you've ever been to Atlanta. Have you ever been to Atlanta and been to Midtown?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. Well, we got to get you down to the A, shawty. Okay.
Yes.
But, it was started in response to that attempt from the city to pass this ordinance. And there were people from the Racial Justice Action Center, Social Bavera, who's a founder of Snapco, Miss Dee Dee Chambly, Black trans woman who has really been incredible in trans advocacy over the last 20 years, and then a few other folks. But they created Snapco, and I was hired as first generation staff in 2015. And I really was hired along with my partner in justice and my brother, Dean Steed. We were charged with leading a campaign called the Pre-Arrest Diversion Initiative, bringing more like policing alternatives to the city, and then also charged to build some like leadership development opportunities for Black trans and queer folks across the city. So I spent my first 5 years at Snapco building those programs. And Social Bavera, the director of the Racial Justice Action Center, wanted to retire. There were things about, what she had created, pouring into trans leadership, also pouring into like the leadership of Black incarcerated women, of women on the rise, that it was time for her to like do the next thing and also entrust our leadership. And so that is what we did. And so we sunset the Racial Justice Action Center and then spun off. And so in this new iteration, I am a co-founder along with Social, as well as Miss Marilyn Wynn, and currently the executive director. So it's been really, really amazing. And it's been a scary and fun process. I've learned a lot about project management and fundraising, and HR, all of the things that executive director has to do. But to the heart and to the core, I'm a performance artist. I'm an organizer. And I love my people. I love entertaining my people, bringing joy to my people, and keeping my people safe. And so it's been amazing to be able to be resourced, to do that and to bring so many people who believe in our mission along with us.
Interested in the power of first-person storytelling? The Voice of Witness book series documents the oral histories of people directly impacted by and fighting against injustice. Each collection supports historically excluded communities to tell their own stories in their own words. The books feature a diversity of voices, including those of refugees and immigrants, incarcerated people, communities displaced from public housing, farm workers, Indigenous peoples, and more. These powerful stories highlight crucial issues and expose the impacts of harmful narratives and policies, laying the groundwork to build solidarity and movements for change. Voice of Witness books are read and used by thousands of educators, organizations, and advocates across the country each year. Visit voiceofwitness.org/read to learn more, access free resources, and get involved.
Hi, I'm Emily Deschanel.
And I'm Carla Gallo, and we're excited to tell you about Boneheads, our new Bones rewatch podcast.
I played Dr. Temperance Brennan.
And I played Daisy Wick, and we are going to watch from the very beginning.
We're going to watch the episodes. We're going to reminisce. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. We're going to tell behind-the-scenes stories.
We're going to go on tangents.
A lot of tangents.
So whether you're a seasoned Bones fanatic or a newcomer looking to dip your toes in to the wild world of forensic anthropology, this show is for you.
Boneheads from Lemonada Media is out now wherever you get your podcasts.
Tell me a little bit about, you say, keeping people safe, looking out for each other. What does that mean on the day-to-day?
Yeah, so I think one of the most amazing parts of our work and one of our premier programs is our Taking Care of Our Own Fund, which is a grassroots fund that supports emergency bailouts, housing, and mutual aid for Black, trans, and queer folks and our families who need support as well in order for all of us to be together and be together well, right? We created this fund back in 2016, so those original founders of SNAPCO were the creators of that fund, as well as myself and Dean Steed. And we've been keeping it going. In 2020, we had a flux of coins to come into our organization.
We love that.
We love that. But also knowing that it was really on the backs of folks like Rayshard Brooks, on the backs of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, and on the backs of the organizers, all right, and the leaders who were leading those movements and fights during the pandemic and the uprisings in the summer. Since 2016, we've been able to support 250 people, and with our small team of just, 3 to 6 Black trans folks and queer folks and our allies supporting the work. Again, we've been able to bail over 50 people out of jail. We've been able to house 100 folks and connect them to more resources. We've been able to just give, grant seeds and monies to folks and support folks with surgeries. So our, in this past year, really been able to support the trans youth that we have. We had 3 youth who were queer and trans, and we were able to house them for half of the year, start their gender affirming, therapy sessions, laser hair treatments, getting them together and on their way. So that has been really amazing. So that has been the day-to-day, being in folks' lives, supporting their, material needs, their emotional needs, cultivating their sense of belonging with our membership programs, and advocating for them and teaching them and supporting them how to advocate for themselves. That is our work. And that is what we do day-to-day outside of, shutting down expressways and, going toe-to-toe with police and city council.
Well, I want to ask about that, too, because, I report on the news every day, and every day I go through my comments section, and I talk a lot about bail reform, and we talk a lot about harm reduction and the way that the incarceration system is so just wholly broken, and it just is. I mean, that's just a fact. And I always get comments from people that are like, okay, V, I'm down with mutual aid. I understand that. I'm down with housing people. I'm down with wraparound services. I'm even down with makeovers. I'm down with whatever is going to make somebody feel confident enough to go out in the world. But what I'm not able to wrap my head around is why we're bailing criminals out of jail. And I'm like, okay, listen, because and I hear so much bias and so much fear in people's voices oftentimes just the way that they're saying, why are you bailing criminals out of jail? And I'm like, okay, you're already assuming that these people have committed an atrocity, which is oftentimes not true. You're also assuming that we're like trying to put people, what benefit would there be putting people who cause harm back into our own communities? So I wanted to know from you, when folks say to you, why are you bailing people out? What do you tell them?
Oh, love this question. Darling,
Yes.
What is a crime, darling?
Right.
Darling, who is a criminal? Jesus. So many people, but not all of us. Sometimes people are just trying to survive. Sometimes people are in unfortunate situations. And so I'll just kind of talk about what's been happening in Atlanta. The Atlanta City Detention Center, which is known in Atlanta as the Extra Jail, was created back in 1996 when the Olympics came to Atlanta. Everybody remember that, right?
Yes, Mitt Romney's Olympics.
Yes, honey. And so that jail was created to kind of like sweep up, like most jails are, to sweep up communities around the Turner Field area and the downtown area of Atlanta. And what that jail held was about 1,300 people who were arrested for petty crimes and or nonviolent offenses. And we want to be careful about nonviolent versus violent offenses, right? But definitely want to say that jaywalking, peeing on the sidewalk, traffic violations, right? People were losing their jobs. People were losing their whole lives by those kinds of offenses. Those folks don't deserve to be in jail. Those folks don't deserve to be in a cage. Those people deserve time and more of a process to be accountable, right, in ways that doesn't involve them being locked away, right, and in horrible conditions. In 2019, former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, did a few things. Number one, she paused and stopped and ended the relationship that the city jail had with ICE, right, to help create more of a, what we don't really call anymore, but what we called at the time more of a sanctuary city for folks who are immigrants and coming to Atlanta, undocumented folks. And then also she signed legislation that would have put in place a design team to really reimagine what the jail could look like, right, if it wasn't a jail, and to also close the jail, right, to really create ways, this task force to create ways that would empty out the jail over time, because what was happening was that there were $34 million a year being poured into that jail. So we're talking $34 million for people who didn't pay a ticket, right? $34 million to house a homeless person or a person who is experiencing homelessness, when they could be using some of those funds to be housed and to be resourced and cared for. And so that was kind of like the need to like reimagine. So I always encourage people to think about who they have in proximity to their lives. Like, who in your family went to jail and really didn't deserve to go to jail? Figure out why, right? And we know why. The system was designed to cage Black and brown folks and from keeping us from being a part, of society, just like they do with trans people who are wrongfully incarcerated, and also youth who are wrongfully incarcerated. And so we do want to challenge those ideas. We do want to be able to have the skill to reimagine more for our communities. We're going to be here for some more time, right? And so we can do something different.
You're talking so much about the Black and trans experience in Atlanta and these communities that are built. And I'm from New York and I grew up in Connecticut. And the only thing I thought of my whole life is I'm going to be gay someday, so I have to move to New York City. That was the only place I thought gay people existed as a young child. And I was like, that's where I'm going to go. That's where I'm going to be safe. But you have said that Atlanta is a legendary LGBTQ capital that doesn't get enough attention. Tell me about living in Atlanta as a queer person.
Darling, it's amazing, honey, to be Black, to be queer, to be trans, to be a woman, darling, in this generation, in this lifetime, in the South, in Atlanta is liberating. Living in Atlanta is like, I'll say the normal things. It's kind of like living in a Wakanda of some sort, of like Black queer rainbows and community and joy. There's always something to do. Atlanta is really like, so it's so special because you can go anywhere and be around everybody and everybody be okay. You know?
Oh, yeah?
Yes. I know that there's a lot of talk about gun violence lately. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of talk about like the sparking of like crime and, outside of those kind of like the jargon around what to be afraid of, there's so much more space of like creativity and joy, and like community building that happens across the city. And I think we do an injustice to our communities, and again, what we're building and have built when we don't leave space for what's actually been changing and what we know to be possible. I'm sure New York is like that too, right? I mean, people talk about crime and violence, but I'm sure all of your friends are litty.
Yeah, they're fine.
Right.
They're fine. Yeah. I mean, Boston was built by the butch lesbians. We all know that. New York was built by Black trans women and gay men. That's right. Like where it was at. Atlanta, though, I had not heard of previously as like a really safe and joyful place for queer people. So I wanted to ask you even more about it because there's so many folks who are listening at home and they're looking for community and they're looking to change their mind about the national narratives that are put on certain big cities as like being good ones or not good ones, right? Is it a recent change in Atlanta? Who built it? Who made it? Why is it so good now?
Who built it? Queer people, Black people. Black people built Atlanta. Black people will sustain Atlanta. Creatives have built Atlanta. And I think about my favorite artists, Outkast, Escape, all of the 90s, celebrities. RuPaul, his first days was in the cities, pumping through the city of Atlanta and in Midtown. Our culture, our love for each other, our passions for the things that we want to create and the things that we see and manifest. That is what has created and cultivated Atlanta. Our civil rights leaders, right? Queer, Black, white, ally, all of us, right? We have created the culture in which Atlanta is the basis for and the foundation for rights and justice and accountability.
Want a sneak preview of hot new audiobooks? Then check out Your Next Listen, a new podcast from Lemonada Media and Simon & Schuster Audio. We've got everything. The hottest new thrillers, best-selling celebrity memoirs, and swoony romances. And these aren't tiny clips either. They're entire chapters you can listen to. Your Next Listen is out November 11th, wherever you get your podcasts.
Want more from your favorite Lemonada Media podcasts while supporting the shows that help make life suck less? Subscribe to Lemonada Premium today. As a subscriber, you'll unlock exclusive bonus content like never-before-heard interviews, behind-the-scenes moments, bonus episodes, and so much more. It's easy to sign up no matter what podcast app you use. On Apple, you can just click the Lemonada logo in the Apple Podcast app and hit subscribe. For all other podcast apps, head to lemonada.supportingcast.fm to subscribe. That's lemonada.supportingcast.fm.
And you have the facts to back it up, too. I was reading, I know it's like a 37-page report, the Deeper Than Visibility report about trans visibility skyrocketing in the past decade and how representation truly matters. Can you just let folks know some of the top line stuff? I'm going to link in the show notes to the report so people can read it because I think it's important for them to see it firsthand. But tell me about the Deeper Than Visibility report.
Beautiful. So this project, as many projects that we do are near and dear to my heart. This project was birthed the summer of 2020 during the uprisings. We were on the ground. There's a short documentary produced by Ryan Horn and his brother in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution about the night that the Wendy's caught a flame in Atlanta and the highway was shut down. I know so many people remember that night. It was actually right after Rayshard Brooks was murdered in the Wendy's parking lot by an Atlanta police officer. I was out there that night. If you watch the documentary, you can check out the story and my story and contribution to keeping folks safe on the highway that night. But there was so many conversations about safety in Atlanta. There was also, after Rayshard was murdered, there was also a young girl, Sequoia Turner, who was murdered by a stray bullet and killed by a stray bullet during a protest that weekend. The police force was disbanding within themselves and going on strike. There were so many things happening in Atlanta. Our police chief, the first LGBTQ and out and open police chief, Erica Shields, had stepped down and resigned after that. And so the city was in flames, literally, with Wendy's. And we wanted to know, what were people really afraid of when we talked about defunding the police, when we talk about reimagining our relationship and more community safety? What are we afraid of? What are people thinking? So we started talking to folks. We talked to over 600 people across Atlanta, Fulton County, Cobb County, DeKalb County, Clayton County. And we asked them those questions. Do they know what's happening with police budgets? What do they recommend to happen with police budgets? What have your experiences been with police? And we found out some really, really important things that really, help create a narrative of alternative building to policing in our city and how we should be shifting public safety, and not just with police reform, but with police abolition and more resources, again, into the communities so that they can now build after abolition, but rebuild what is more necessary and what they feel keeps them safe, right? And so that is what our report does. You're able to see the survey results and what people were thinking, some of the stories that they experienced with police. You're able to also see a timeline of reformist and abolitionist efforts when it comes to police. A few scandals, a few people that we love who've been forgotten about, who've been harmed by police violence in Atlanta. And then you're able to also see some policy recommendations and a few ideas to help us move forward, like a new trap cultural zone or zones that, support businesses and communities with more de-escalation tactics. Also a trans safety initiative that, again, allows trans folks to be in their dignity and to have a buddy of some sort. And then to also, get their records expunged and documents updated. And so you will see kind of this vision of safety for not just trans people, but Black people. I'm a Black trans woman in Atlanta, from Atlanta, and all of my people who I meet at the intersection are important to me. So we wanted to create a document that really lays out our works to invite more people in.
I'm going to tell you, it was really helpful to me, and I'm going to expose myself a little bit here. I sometimes hear defund the police, and I'm like, well, but then what are we going to do? And and then you have to really research and learn. And the thing that I learned from this particular document is that at the end of this, we're trying to provide safety to communities, right? So one way that it had been done historically was with policing, your friendly neighborhood policeman who's going to protect you from any potential crime. But when that isn't happening because the police budget is so inflated and the budget for things that prevent crime, like housing people, like getting people the mental health care that they need, making sure that domestic violence isn't occurring, making sure people aren't in desperate circumstances that force them to commit crimes just to survive. If we sort of invested in those things, we would have safety and we wouldn't have crime and we wouldn't have to rely on this really aggressive form of safety that, it turns out, is not that safe. It is not that safe. You know, we've seen that over the last couple of years, and with the rise in social media, the way that the citizen journalist can truly document in real time what an interaction with certain police forces is like, and that does not represent safety. That's not everyone everywhere. And so what I loved about this document was it reminds people that the point here is for the best of the community. The point here is to lift people up, to make them feel included. It's not to say like, you know, let's get rid of everything that exists and everybody did a bad job and you're all, you know, a problem. It's like, shit ain't working. Here are some ideas for how it could work.
Absolutely.
Maybe we ought to give them a try in collaboration. And I just absolutely love that work that you do.
Thank you.
Because like you said, you're sitting at this intersection of being Black, of being trans, of being a woman, of being in the South. I mean, I do the news every day. I could do just news on the crimes that are perpetrated upon your community.
Yeah.
And it would never get to the end. And it's like, who is protecting you? And your answer is ourselves. And now you've come forward with some really good action steps for people.
Thank you. Yes.
Including, you even partnered with the scariest app in all of the App Store, the Citizen app, which scares me every day. I had the Citizen app. I had to get it off my phone. They report too many things on that. And I live in like nowhere now. I live in Rochester, but like, you know, they'd be dinging me all the time with stuff. But tell me about the partnership with the Citizen app even. I mean, you guys are freaking everywhere.
We are. Thank you. We've been working really hard, and I'm really proud of our team. It's been a journey building a team in the last 3 years. It hasn't been easy, especially with the pandemic, but the folks that I found and that we found, they love us and we love them, and they pour so much into everybody that comes into our base. The Citizen app, my God. So this partnership, it came out of the sky. It came out of the blue. I was introduced to a representative from Citizen, and they shared with us their work with other communities around offering just free premium subscriptions to the app. Again, with this kind of initial thought that if folks have access to something else, right, that they could generate a little more safety for themselves and like within their communities. And that is something that we believe in. We know that there have been apps like Neighbor and things that have been, you know, harmful to Black and LGBTQ communities. But we've done research with Citizen and really have a clear understanding of like what is allowed and what is not allowed on their platforms, and that it is overwhelming to receive all of the information. But I think for us, the main thing is that we want trans people, particularly trans women, to have someone else with them who is not police. Because at the end of the day, I think of an example, you know, as a trans woman, I hate walking through groups of men, okay? It is like my worst fear that someone would see me as trans and respond violently to that. And to know that, you know, a lot of times I don't feel comfortable calling a friend to letting them know. It's like, girl, they probably tired of hearing me being scared about it. But to know that I have an app that I can just tap, someone's with me within 3 seconds, to just walk with me and wait with me by the bus, walk with me and went through the parking lot until I get to the store. If I need support, they can escalate for me, to call the police if I needed that, or to contact someone for me if I needed that. We want that for our people, and we want them to have that resource. And so it is a resource. I didn't know
that's even what it did. I was just like, oh my gosh. All right, well, now I'm learning too today, right? So now I'm going to put it back on my phone.
Yes. Snap code, I'll give you the
I
code.
would do that. I would absolutely love to do that. I think that sounds like such a great way to like help folks and be a part of the community and like just generally be looking out for each other. As simple as that.
As simple
what an
as
incredible
that.
idea.
As simple as that. And so they've been great. They've been great with us, and we're excited for what's to come.
That is fantastic. And we get a lot of questions from people who do want to know how to help. And we've now taught people, film the police, film where you are. If you don't feel safe, click into the Citizen app, ask for help. Right. Don't assume that things are going to be okay. Tell folks at home, what is the power in de-escalation? And maybe add, what does that look like? You know, like how can they take control of a situation if it starts to get out of hand?
The power of de-escalation is simply being able to live through a moment. It's as simple as that. You're able to live and breathe through a moment. You know, being able to be dropped into your own body, being able to understand spiritually and wholly the choices and agency that you have, being able to trust, you know, in the ways that it matters, that people have your back and that you have what you need as well. And also to trust that something else is possible on the other side of it. We already know like what escalating things would do, right? Folks get killed, folks get harmed or hurt, folks get arrested and taken away from families. People get fired. People are stuck and forced with shame and all of the things that hold us back from each other. And so when I think about de-escalation and the power of de-escalation, it's about interconnectedness. It's about presence and openness for possibility and change. And we need that. We are yearning for that. Some of my favorite teachers like Prentice Hemphill and mentors and sisters like Adrienne Marie Brown, you know, that they are, you know, teachers of these skills and this like process of embodiment. And so am I. And so I think there's just so much power inside of it for the sake of our communities, our families, and our futures as Black people, as people who love Black people, who want to support trans people. I think that there's so much more possible when we are all have the tactics and the skill to de-escalate, to calm, to ground, so that we transform a moment to be better connected to each other.
Yeah, I love what you said. It gives you the power to live through that moment. And sometimes that's exactly right where we are. You can't make a big change, but you can make a tiny adjustment. You can hold your own power and you can get through that moment, and then you can make a different decision. It doesn't have to be all the decisions all up at front in the first place. What is your vision for Black trans liberation in the new year?
Oh, in the new year, honey.
What's 2023 going to bring?
Baby, I hope it brings people new bodies and the bodies that they desire and see for themselves.
Absolutely.
I also see wins on state and federal levels for trans and LGBTQ and Black equality and justice and restoration. I think that is on the verge and on the horizon. I see more folks understanding what safety is and what is possible for them. It's our 10-year anniversary, okay? So I see us having a good old time being gay at a gala.
Ballroom? We'll be in the ballroom.
We'll be in the ballroom, darling. Supporting and investing more in trans lives and leadership across Atlanta and into SNAPCO. And I see us growing, you know, in our team and in our membership base. And yeah, we have some exciting things coming. We're looking to purchase a building to house our work. And so we'll be launching a capital campaign next year. We've been working with artists across the city, music artists who are working on an album for our movement. And so that is coming. So music, joy, new bodies, new booze, new love, new connections, new wins and victories. I see all of those things happening for our community.
I love that. And I will be following, and I will be looking forward to that as well. We'll link in the show notes to your organization so that folks can find you. I have had such a good time chatting with you. I'm so grateful that we had this time. You are just an endless sense of joy and inspiration. I'm so grateful that you exist in this world.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having the SNAPCO team. Thank you for sharing our work. And yeah, you're invited, baby. And all of your people are invited to please click and enjoy our work and join our work, invest in our work. We need you to win. So thank y'all so much for having us.
I truly can't wait for you to teach me a death drop. I think that'll be just the cherry on our friendship.
I am not a vulgar, honey. I'm not that kind of performer,
I can't show up to the ballroom without a move. We're going to have to do something.
Okay, so this gala, you're going to be able to do all the things that you know how to do at the gala. And you're going to be able to observe.
The running man, the step touch. I got standard white people moves, okay? I've got snap touch. That's it. That's good.
Snap
okay.
Your finger? Are you going to
there we go.
Step?
Yes,
you're going to lean with it, rock with it?
I don't know about the rock with it, but I will lean with it. We got to work our way up.
This is why you have to come so that we can teach and learn and be joyful together.
Perfect. I just love you so much. You crack me up.
You too. Thank you.
Wow, what an incredible human. And I don't know about you guys, but my energy is at like a 10 right now. Toni-Michelle just has this way of swirling you up into her world and making you a part of the joy that she experiences and even helping you find your own joy. And I hope you did find some joy here today. Thank you to the Marguerite Casey Foundation for making this conversation possible. I hope you join us Tuesday for more of the headlines you might have missed and an interview with Melissa Urban, the founder of The Whole30 and the author of the Book of Boundaries. We're going to learn a whole new way to be lucky and healthy and all the good things this Tuesday. I will see you then. And if you can't wait till then leave me a voicemail. I love to hear from you guys. 612-293-8550. Follow me at Under the Desk News on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And guess what, pals? There's a lot more V Interesting with Lemonada Premium. Subscribers get exclusive access to bonus content, like literacy journalist Emily Hanford telling us why kids don't read good. Subscribe now in Apple Podcasts. The Interesting is a Lemonada Media original. Our producers are Jorge Olivares, Aria Bracci, and Donnie Matias. Executive producers are Stephanie Whittles-Wax and Jessica Cordova-Kramer. Our vice president of weekly programming is Steve Nelson. Mix and scoring is by Brian Castillo. Music is by Seth Applebaum. Please help others find the show by rating and reviewing wherever you listen. And follow us across all social platforms at Vitus Spear and at Under the Desk News and at Lemonada Media. If you want more V Interesting, subscribe to Lemonada Premium only on Apple Podcasts and follow the show wherever you get your podcasts or listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership.
Are you looking for ways to make your everyday life happier, healthier, more productive, and more creative? I'm Gretchen Rubin, the #1 best-selling author of The Happiness Project, bringing you fresh insights and practical solutions in the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. My co-host and happiness guinea pig is my sister, Elizabeth Kraft.
That's me, Elizabeth Kraft, a TV writer and producer in Hollywood. Join us as we explore ideas and hacks about cultivating happiness and good habits.
Check out Happier with Gretchen Rubin from Lemonada Media.
Hi everyone, Gloria Riviera here, and we are back for another season of No One Is Coming to Save Us, a podcast about America's childcare crisis. This season, we're delving deep into 5 critical issues facing our country through the lens of childcare: poverty, mental health, housing, climate change, and the public school system. By exploring these connections, we aim to highlight that childcare is not an isolated issue, but one that influences all facets of American life. Season 4 of No One Is Coming to Save Us is out now wherever you get your podcasts.